This white couple got arrested for adopting and using 5 black children as slaves.
Are you?
Don't worry about it, I got you. So this couple, one is named Gene Whitefeather, who is 62, and the male, his name is Donald Lance, who is 63, are facing a slew of charges in West Virginia for using their 5 adopted children as slaves. And when I say this is not hyperbolic in the least. They literally had a slave quarters that looked like a slave quarters. They were keeping these children locked in with a padlock and forcing them to do manual labor. The craziest part about the story is that the neighbors had called CPS multiple times and CPS had found nothing wrong. It wasn't until they called the police and the police ended up checking. They were ages like 6 to 16 or something like that, where they were locked in, were able to find these children. But this is the story.
White couple are accused of treating their 5 adopted children like slaves. We know for sure 3 are black, according to the indictment. Prosecutors say the children were also targeted and adopted because of their race. The pair was arrested last fall. This was after a wellness check turned into...
This is my point. It looks like a goddamn slave quarter. This is the thing. It would be one thing, and it would still be terrible if they were just adopting these children and forcing them to do labor. But the fact that you were so goddamn evil, and not only did you adopt children, but you specifically adopted black children so that you could treat them like this. So they put them in this room, basically a shack with cement floors, and they had no access to running water, no access to a toilet, no beds, no covers, literally had a room, much like a prison cell or a slave quarters where they were locked in and they slept on the floor.
About the living conditions of the children. 2 of the children, 14 and 16 years old, were found living in a barn outside. Neighbors tipped law enforcement off. Deputies discovered there were limited resources in that barn. The teens only had a small porta potty, no running water, or a mattress. According to neighbors, the children were not allowed inside of the home, the main house, and had to do farm labor outside instead. Whitefeather denies the allegations and says the barn was simply a teenage clubhouse. Both Whitefeather and Lance are now behind bars as they wait for a trial to begin September 9th.
So they were arrested, and this is the 911 call that the luckily concerned neighbor, and God bless this person, called in and to report them. This is the 911 call.
There is a family that we have been calling CPS on multiple times. He has 2 kids locked in an outbuilding. They've been in there for days. They're in that with the red door. It's padlocked. Locked with a padlock? Yes, I've seen him open it, say something to the kids, and I watched him lock it back. The kids are locked in there. You can't mess with it. It's a red, 2 double doors. They're red. They're locked in that. In the barn.
Deputies say they...
Now, finally, after a long period of them not doing anything, when they called CPS, when they called 911, 911 came, and luckily, husband and wife, neither one of them were at home that day. So they were able to immediately gain access to that shack, basically, that was locked, and found, I believe, 2 or 3 children in there, and then there was another one in the home later on that they found. So they have been arrested. Now they're being accused of human trafficking as well as child neglect, child endangerment, and possibly in the future a hate crime, because they literally did this because these children were black. Now, they had raised their bond and were about to get out of jail. But thank God, if I've never been more happy to hear a judge get on somebody's ass, this judge did an amazing job and doubled their bond after they got the money to get out and was able to keep them from being able to get out. And this is what she said about it.
In all of my time, it alleges human trafficking, human rights violations, the use of forced labor, human rights violations specific to the fact that these children were targeted because of their race, and their use as basically slaves from what the indictment alleges, along with human trafficking and neglect with serious risk of bodily injury or death. I don't find the bond to be sufficient.
I believe 1 or 2 of their properties and getting the bond money together, but then they realized, and look, they pulled some player shit. The law enforcement was like, well, we believe you bought all of these properties or may have bought these properties with money from trafficking children. So guess what? You don't get to keep that money. Give me all that. Then they doubled the bond, and now they're being investigated for allegedly even lying on their application for a public defender and lying about their assets, because what he said said their assets were versus what they're believed to be aren't the same. So I like the fact we see a lot of times, like in the Young Thug Rico case, where they are, I would say, grasping at straws or maybe going beyond what they would normally do to try to make a case. I am glad to see that type of energy going somewhere where it is necessary and it is well deserved. And these people, yes, do all of those things. Make sure they can't get out. Make sure that they don't see the light of day. Make sure that they get charged correctly and these kids get the type of help that they need and get some justice. The unfortunate part about all of this is that these children will have to deal with the trauma from being in this situation and from, you know, being adopted by them. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be a child that's up for adoption or, you know, doesn't have a home, and then someone comes and picks you up, and then that person decides that you are literally going to be a slave. You were now in 2024. It's just, I don't know, it's just disgusting on a whole new level. I don't understand what happened here, but I think there's more going on, and as they continue to investigate, they'll find out exactly why they, you know, did this and what was their mission.
It makes me wonder, when children are adopted, what do they do? Wellness checks? How do they monitor what's going on with these kids? Or is it kind of like once they're adopted, they're just in the hands of the people who have adopted them? Because this is heartbreaking beyond measure.
I'm pretty sure there is some type of check-up system, but this is the thing. CPS was called multiple times. They were investigated by CPS, and I feel like a lot of times these people, if you look at them, it looked like, you know, good old nice white people. And when the CPS person comes, they play a good game. You know, they don't show you the shack that the kids are locked in. Why would I do that? So they probably play off, laugh off the investigation, and are able, because of their privilege, to probably escape some of the scrutiny that maybe someone else would face if they weren't looking the way that they look and able to, you know, speak their language and have that connection with them and make them feel comfortable enough to think that, well, this type of people wouldn't lock a child in a, you know what I'm saying? But apparently whoever did that, whoever was tasked with that job, did a terrible job at it, because how do you get multiple calls like this and like these kids aren't taken away and this thing isn't found out? So the USA Today talked about this, and they were saying that they talk about how they were able to adopt the children. So White Feather and Lance and the children had recently moved to West Virginia from the state of Washington, citing the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office. All 5 children were homeschooled according to the TV station. Before their arrest in October 2023, White Feather and Lance had no prior criminal history in West Virginia. The Sheriff's Office did confirm that 2 complaints, one in May 2023 and the other in September 23, were made against the couple according to the TV station. Neighbors reported in 2023 that the children were forced to perform farm labor and were not allowed inside the main house. The teens that were found inside the barn said that they were locked inside for about 12 hours and were told to sleep on the bare concrete floor, according to the outlet. The teenagers were dirty, had a strong body odor, and the 14-year-old had open sores on his feet. The ages of the adopted children were 6, 9, 11, 14, and 16. And the worst part about all of this is I don't know at every age group how these kids will function in society in the future with the type of trauma that they have had to experience, because like we don't even know what they experienced to what level and how they will even, like, they need help.
Something had to have happened for them to be adopted in the first place. So these children go from not being wanted or being placed up for adoption for whatever reason, which is already traumatic, especially if they were at an age where they can remember those things. And then to think we're being adopted, we're being saved, so to speak, only to be found in this condition.
We'll keep you guys updated with the story as we get more information. Right now, they are arrested. They haven't been able to make bond, so they are being held. I don't think that they will be able to, the way that the law enforcement is now, you know, investigating their finances. So hopefully that stays true. And like I said, they end up serving the time for their crime, and these kids get the help that they deserve. And if we get any updates on this story, we will be sure to let you guys